The free ride is over, you pathetic parasite.
They say blood is thicker than water, but in my family, blood was just a currency. I was standing at my grandfather's grave, the dirt still fresh, when my grandmother leaned in and whispered loud enough for the entire funeral procession to hear. The free ride is over, you pathetic parasite. Pack your bags by tonight, or I'm calling the police to drag you out of my house, the crowd gasped. My aunt smirked. They thought they finally won. What they didn't realize was that I wasn't just the girl who changed Grandpa's bandages for 10 years. I was the person who signed the checks for the very ground she was standing on. And Grandma? Her eviction notice was already printed. To understand how we got here, you have to understand the last decade of my life. While my cousins were out partying in Europe and my aunts were busy fighting over who would inherit the jewelry, I was in the trenches. My grandfather, Arthur, was the anchor of this family. But when his health declined, everyone suddenly became too busy to help. I gave up my scholarship. I put my career in software development on hold. For 10 years, I was his nurse, his cook, and his only friend. My grandmother, Martha, spent those years on luxury cruises, using the stress of Arthur's illness as an excuse to never be home. She only called when she needed more money from his accounts. Arthur knew what was happening. He wasn't blind. One night, about 3 years ago, he sat me down with his lawyer. He told me, Sarah, they see this house as a trophy. They see you as a servant. But I see you as the only one who actually loves this family. He was terrified that Martha and his greedy sons would sell everything the moment he was gone and leave me on the street. We made a plan. It wasn't about a hidden will. It was about a private business transaction. I had been working freelance at night, building a successful tech startup while Arthur slept. I had the capital. So I didn't just wait for an inheritance. I bought the mortgage. I bought the land. I became the silent owner of the Heritage, the luxury senior living corporation that owned not only our family estate, but also the high-end retirement community Martha had been bragging about moving into for years. The wake after the funeral was a nightmare. Martha had turned the mourning period into a celebration of her newfound freedom. She invited the whole town to the house, my house, and started labeling the furniture with Post-it notes. For Aunt Linda, for Cousin Mark. She cornered me in the kitchen. Why are you still here, Sarah? She barked, clutching a glass of expensive champagne. The will is clear. Everything goes to me. You've lived here like a leech for years, eating our food and sleeping in our beds. It's time you found a job and a life of your own. If anyone is actually willing to hire a college dropout like you. My Uncle Dave joined in, laughing. Maybe she can be a maid for one of us. She's already got the experience. The room erupted in laughter. They called me a charity case and a parasite in front of people I'd known since childhood. Martha then handed me a trash bag. Start with your closet. I want you gone by sunset. I'm selling this place to a developer tomorrow, and I'm moving into the Diamond Suites at the Heritage Resort. I deserve peace, away from people like you. The cruelty was breathtaking. They didn't care that I had saved Arthur's life multiple times. They didn't care that I had no other home. They just wanted the money, and I was the last obstacle to their payday. I took a deep breath. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just pulled a thin blue folder out of my bag. Martha, I said calmly, you're right about one thing. The will is clear. You inherit Arthur's personal belongings, his clothes, his watch, and his old car. But we need to talk about the real estate, she scoffed. The house is mine. It's been in the family for 40 years. Actually, I replied, sliding a document across the table. Arthur sold the deed to a holding company called Evergreen Assets 3 years ago to cover his medical debts and business expenses. Check the public records. He didn't want the family to lose the home to a bank, so he sold it to someone who promised to keep it. Martha's face went pale. That's impossible. He wouldn't do that without telling me. He did it because you were in Tuscany spending $10,000 a week on his credit card. I countered. And here's the best part, Martha. I am the CEO and 100% owner of Evergreen Assets, which means I don't live in your house. You have been a guest in mine for the last 36 months. And since you've been so adamant about parasites leaving, I think it's time you followed your own advice. The room went dead silent. Uncle Dave tried to grab the papers, but my lawyer, who had just walked through the front door, stepped in. Everything is legally binding, Mr. Davis. My client has been paying the property taxes, the maintenance, and the utilities since 2021. Your mother has no legal right to be here. But I wasn't done. Martha started screaming that it didn't matter because she was moving to the Diamond Suites anyway. I smiled. It was the coldest smile I've ever given. About that, Martha, I should mention that Evergreen Assets acquired the Heritage Corporation last month. I am your new landlord there too, and I just reviewed your application. Unfortunately, due to your lack of liquid assets and your history of, let's call it financial instability, your application for the Diamond Suites has been denied. The look on her face was worth every sleepless night and every insult I'd endured. She looked like she'd aged 20 years in 20 seconds. You can't do this, she shrieked. I'm your grandmother. Funny, I said, an hour ago I was a parasite. Now I'm family? The locks on this house are being changed in 2 hours. Your labeled furniture? Most of it was bought with my money anyway, but you can take the Post-it notes. As for your move to the luxury suites, I've redirected your luggage to a much more affordable state-run facility on the other side of town. It's what you can afford now that Arthur's pension is being used to pay back the debts you ran up. The greedy relatives who were laughing moments ago were now scrambling. Uncle Dave started begging me for a loan. Aunt Linda tried to hug me and tell me she always knew I was the smart one. I walked past them all. I watched as the movers I hired began taking Martha's expensive furs and putting them into the back of a beat-up taxi. She was crying, blaming everyone but herself. She had spent her whole life treating people like tools, and now she found out she was the one who was obsolete. I stood on the porch of the house I saved, watching the sunset, feeling the weight of 10 years finally lift off my shoulders. It's been 6 months since that day. I didn't sell the house. I turned it into a foundation for young caregivers. People who, like me, sacrificed everything to look after their loved ones. We provide scholarships and legal aid so they never get bullied by greedy relatives. Martha is living in that state-run home. I pay for her basic needs because, unlike her, I have a heart. But she has no diamond suite, no champagne, and no one to scream at. My aunts and uncles haven't spoken to me. And honestly, that's the best gift they ever gave me. The lesson I learned is simple. People will treat you how you allow them to treat you, until you show them who is actually in charge. I was never a parasite. I was the host. And without me, the leeches had nowhere left to go. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever dealt with a toxic family member, let me know in the comments how you handled it. And remember, keep your receipts. You never know when they'll be your best weapon.